A farmer named Elias Thornwood shares his last bit of food with a super hungry Apache teen. What happens next is gonna totally flip what everyone on the frontier thinks about friends and foes. Elias was kneeling by his sad, dry cornfield, feeling the crispy stalks in his rough hands. The drought had been brutal for 3 months, turning his green field into cracked, thirsty dirt under a blazing sun. His water barrel had maybe 2 days' worth left, and his food sack in the cabin had just enough for one last meal. He was basically counting down to tough times. The sun was beating down on Elias as he trudged back to his little wooden cabin, built by his dad, with curtains his mom sewed, and a kitchen door his wife painted with wildflowers before she passed away 2 winters ago from a fever. The paint was chipping, the roof was leaky, and Elias was all alone. But then, something weird caught his eye. By the old oak tree at the edge of his land, there was a dark shape lying still in the dirt. Elias squinted, his hand reaching for the rifle on his back. Sometimes wild animals, crazy with thirst, wandered onto his land. As he got closer, his heart sank. It wasn't an animal, it was a young guy, maybe 16, with long black hair and bronze skin. An Apache dot, the boy's ribs were poking through his torn shirt, and his lips were all cracked and white from no water. He was barely breathing. Every part of Elias screamed to walk away. Just last month, Apache raiders hit homes 50 miles south, killing 3 families and burning their houses. The government said any Apache on settler land was dangerous. But this wasn't some tough warrior. This was a kid starving to death. Elias knelt down, listening close to the boy's faint breath. The kid's dark eyes opened for a second, all confused and desperate, then closed again. "Man," Elias whispered. He glanced at his cabin, then back at the boy. Everything he'd days learned about surviving told him to leave. Apache were enemies. They'd killed settlers like him without thinking twice. If this boy's people found him here, they'd think Elias kidnapped him and come for revenge. But the kid was dying. Elias slid his arms under the boy's shoulders and knees, shocked at how light he was, just skin and bones. He carried him to the cabin, each step feeling like he was breaking every frontier rule about staying safe. Inside the dim cabin, Elias laid the boy on his own bed and grabbed the water pitcher. He lifted the kid's head and dripped water into his cracked lips. The boy swallowed weakly, like his body was doing it on autopilot. In the kitchen, Elias stared at his last bit of cornmeal left for maybe 2 biscuits and some watery soup. After that, he'd be chewing tree bark and hoping for rain that might never come. But he started the fire anyway. While the soup cooked, he sat by the bed, looking at the boy's face-high cheekbones, strong jaw, skin dark from the desert sun. Scars on his hands showed he'd worked hard. This kid had been through a lot. "What's your name?" Elias asked softly, not expecting a reply. The boy's eyes opened, clearer now. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Elias brought the soup and sat on the bed. "Take it slow," he said, feeding him a spoonful at a time. The young Apache ate carefully, his eyes locked on Elias, looking confused, like he couldn't believe a white farmer was feeding him instead of pointing a gun. When half the soup was gone, the boy weakly pushed the spoon away. "More," Elias said. "You gotta get stronger." But the boy shook his head and pointed at Elias, then the soup. Elias got it. The kid knew this was all the food left and wanted Elias to have some too. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Outside, the wind got stronger, shaking the cabin's loose boards. The drought kept killing the land, and somewhere out there, people like this boy were seen as enemies by folks like Elias. But right now, in this tiny cabin, they were just 2 guys sharing the last meal they had. The boy's lips moved again, and this time he whispered, "Ayala." "Elias," the farmer replied. They finished the soup, passing the spoon back and forth quietly. When the bowl was empty, Ayana's eyes got heavy, and he fell asleep. Elias sat in a chair, watching the boy breathe, wondering what he'd just started. Because outside, dust clouds were moving closer on the horizon. Elias stepped onto his porch, squinting into the afternoon sun. Those dust clouds weren't just wind. They were moving with purpose, following the old trading path toward his land. Riders, on horses, coming fast. His heart pounded as he counted at least 6, maybe more. Out here, that could mean Apache, warriors, territorial lawmen, or outlaws. None of those were good news for a farmer hiding an Apache kid. Behind him, Ayanna was stirring, trying to sit up, still weak. "You gotta hide," Elias said, rushing inside. "Riders are coming, and if they find you—" Ayanna swung his legs off the bed, testing his strength. "How many?" 6, maybe 8. Moving quick. Elias grabbed his rifle from above the fireplace. Only 3 bullets left. Not enough if things went bad. Ayanna stood slowly, leaning on the wall. "I'll go. You've done enough. In. Your shape. You'll collapse before you hit the trees," Elias said, looking around the cabin. The root cellar was too obvious, and under the bed wouldn't fool anyone. Hoofbeats echoed louder off the canyon walls. "The loft," Elias said, pointing to a narrow ladder leading to a small storage space above. "Get up there and stay. Quiet, no matter what." Ayanna climbed slowly, each step a struggle. Just as he vanished into the shadows, the riders reached the yard. Elias stepped onto the porch, holding his rifle loosely, trying to act like he was just checking on visitors, not hiding a secret. 8 men on horses formed a half circle around his cabin. Their leader, a big guy with a gray beard and a marshal's badge, spat tobacco into the dirt. "Afternoon, Thornwood. I'm Marshal Grayson. We're tracking Apache raiders who hit the Miller place yesterday. Killed the whole family, burned their house." Elias kept his face calm, but his stomach turned to ice. "Haven't seen any Apache, Marshal. Been working my fields all morning." Grayson's eyes scanned the dead crops and cracked dirt. "Heard. You've been struggling since your wife died. A desperate man might make bad choices about who he trusts." "Not sure what you mean," Elias said. A younger rider with nervous eyes pointed at the oak tree. "Marshal, there's messed up dirt over there. Looks like someone was lying in it." Elias's mouth went dry. Of course, the spot where Ayanna collapsed would show marks, maybe even blood from his cracked lips. Grayson dismounted and checked. The dirt, running it through his fingers. "Fresh," he said. "Last few hours." He looked at Elias. "Want to tell me what happened here?" The other riders spread out, hands on their guns, surrounding the cabin. This wasn't just a chat anymore. "Could be anything," Elias said. "Maybe a wild animal or someone passing through." Grayson walked toward the porch, eyes locked on Elias. "What kind of someone?" A faint creak came from the loft above. Ayanna was trying to stay still but was too weak. "If they search the cabin—" "Look, Marshal," Elias said. "I've told you what I know. No Apache here, and I haven't helped any. I got my own problems." Grayson stopped at the porch steps. "Mind if we look inside?" Just to be thorough. It wasn't a question. The men were already getting off their horses. "This is my land," Elias said. "You got no right." "I got every right when we're chasing killers," Grayson said, hand on his pistol. "Step aside, Herc." Elias's mind raced. He could fight, but one farmer against 8 armed men? No chance. They'd find Ayanna, or he could let them. Look and hope the boy stayed hidden. "Fine," Elias said, stepping back. "You won't find anything." Grayson pushed past him, and the men spread out, flipping furniture, checking corners, opening cupboards. One knelt by the bed, feeling the blankets still warm from Ayanna. "Bed's warm," he called. "Someone's been here." "That's me," Elias said fast. "I was resting after working." Grayson noticed the empty soup bowl and the dead fire. Lot of cooking for one guy. 2 bowls, looks like. I was hungry. "Made extra," Elias said. "Or you were feeding someone else," Grayson said. Another creak came from the loft. A young deputy looked up. "What's up there?" Elias felt sweat on his forehead. "Storage. Just old tools." Grayson eyed the ladder. "Might as well check." As the deputy moved toward it, Elias knew it was over. They'd find Ayanna, think Elias was helping raiders, and hang him from his own tree. But then, something wild happened outside. A deep rhythmic chant echoed across the valley, like the earth itself was singing, coming from everywhere. The deputy froze on the ladder. "What in the world?" Grayson whispered. Through the windows, shadows moved, not clouds, but people flowing over the hills. Dozens, then hundreds. Grayson's men rushed to the windows, their confidence fading fast. Apache warriors were appearing from behind rocks and gullies, like they were part of the desert itself. Silent, patient, until now. But they weren't attacking or yelling. They sat still on their horses, forming a huge circle around Elias's land, stretching as far as you could see. "How many?" a deputy whispered. Grayson counted, hands shaking. 200, maybe more. How'd they get so close? Elias stared, amazed. In 30 years, he'd never seen anything like it. This wasn't a war party. They moved fast and vanished. This was something else. An old Apache man rode slowly toward the cabin, his horse stepping carefully through the dry grass. He looked important, not just a warrior. 2 younger men followed, but their weapons stayed put. The old man stopped 20 feet from the porch and looked at Elias. "You are the one," he said in clear but accented English. "The one who feeds the hungry." Grayson stepped forward, hand on his gun. "Stay back, old man. We're the law here." The elder's eyes flicked to Grayson, maybe amused. "Your law?" He pointed to the warriors around them. "Our land. This is U.S. territory." Grayson said, "This," the elder said calmly, "is where my grandson lay dying this morning." Elias felt the words like a punch. Grandson. Ayana was this man's grandson. Another creak came from the loft. Everyone heard it. Grayson's face hardened. "Someone's up there? Deputy, climb that ladder." "No," the elder said quietly, but it stopped the deputy cold. The warriors outside shifted slightly, no weapons drawn. But the message was clear. Don't mess with the guy who showed kindness. The elder went on. "You will not harm the one who showed mercy. You will not enter the place where kindness happened." "Sacred place?" Grayson laughed, but it sounded nervous. "This is just a farmer's cabin. This morning, my grandson was dying," the elder said. "This man gave him water when he had little, food when he had less, shelter when enemies were near." His voice carried over the quiet land. "This place is sacred to us now." Grayson looked at the warriors, knowing he was outmatched. "You're protecting this farmer. He could be hiding criminals." "He's hiding my family," the elder said. The deputy by the ladder looked to Grayson, but the marshal was lost. "We have the law here," Grayson said weakly. The elder smiled, not exactly friendly. "You have 8 men. I have 8 times. 8 times 8. Which law do we talk about?" First, silence fell, tense and heavy. One wrong move, and this could turn into a fight that would haunt the territory for years. The elder looked at Elias, waiting. Then Ayana's voice came from the loft, weak but clear. "Grandfather." Elias got it. His small act of kindness had started something huge. The elder's face lit up at his grandson's voice, relief washing over him. "Ayana," he called softly. "Come down, grandson." "It's safe." Ayana climbed down slowly, weak but proud. He walked to Elias and put a hand on his shoulder. "This man gave me life," he said in English for all to hear. "When I was dying, he shared his last food, his last water. He could have left me or killed me. He saved me." Grayson's face turned red. "This is what I thought. You're hiding a fugitive, Thornwood." He could have been part of the Miller raid. The elder's eyes flashed. "My grandson was hunting alone for 3 days, looking for food for our starving kids. While you hunt us, our people starve. Excuse?" The elder said, his voice rising. "What's your excuse for paying for Apache scalps? For poisoning our water? For burning our crops in winter?" The tension was thick. Deputies had hands on their guns, but the 200 warriors outside kept them still. Elias stepped between them, heart racing. If you were Elias, what would you do? Risk everything for the people who saved you, or try to keep peace, knowing one wrong word could start a war that destroys everyone? Tell me in the comments. I want to know your choice. Because what Elias did next would either save everyone or ruin them. "Stop," Elias said firmly. "All of you, stop." He turned to Grayson. "You want to know what happened? I found a kid starving on my land. I fed him. That's the whole story." "You helped an enemy," Grayson said. "I helped a person," Elias said, his voice strong. "If that's a crime, your law is no good." Grayson's face darkened. "You're under arrest for helping hostiles." But the elder raised his hand. "Wait," he said. "There's another way." He looked around the cabin, seeing the empty shelves and patched walls. "You're alone," he said to Elias. "Your crops are dying. Your land's failing. You've got no family, no help." Elias nodded. "No point hiding it." "My people struggle too," the elder said. "The government put us on land that won't grow food. Our kids are hungry. Our elders are weak. We need help to survive winter." Grayson jumped in. "Don't make a deal with them, Thornwood. That's treason." The elder smiled grimly. "Hostiles? We're farmers now. The government made sure of that." He looked at Elias. "What if I told you there's water under your land? Deep water, enough to save your crops and feed 100 families." Elias blinked. "Water? Here?" "My people know this land for 1,000 seasons," the elder said. "We know where water hides." "Your drought comes from digging in the wrong spots," Ayanna spoke up. "My grandfather's right. There's water, but you gotta know how to find it." "And in return?" Elias asked, guessing the answer. "My people work your land," the elder said. "We dig wells, plant crops, share the harvest. A partnership, our knowledge, your land." Grayson exploded. "No way. This is U.S. territory. You can't make deals with savages." That word savages made the warriors outside rumble like a storm. The elder's voice went cold. "Savages? Who burned our village last month? Killed our kids? Put bounties on us like animals?" "That's war," Grayson said. "Yes," the elder said quietly. "And you're surrounded by warriors tired of your war." Silence hit hard. 8 lawmen against 200 fighters. Scary math. Ayanna stepped forward, looking at Grayson. "There's another choice. My grandfather offers peace, a chance for both our people to survive winter, or keep fighting and see how that ends." Elias looked around at the scared deputies. The proud elder, Ayanna, bridging 2 worlds about to clash. The sun was sinking. Soon it'd be dark, and if this went wrong, blood would spill. The next words would decide if tomorrow brought peace or disaster. Grayson's hand hovered over his gun, sweat on his forehead. "You're asking me to ignore the law," he said. The elder studied him. "I'm asking you to see what could be, not what's always been. And if I say no?" The silence outside shifted, maybe leather creaking or horses snorting. "Then you'll try to arrest this man," the elder said calmly. "My warriors will stop you, and your governor will have to explain why 8 lawmen died to let kids starve." A young deputy, Morrison, cleared his throat. "Marshal, maybe we should think about it." "Think about what? Talking to hostiles?" Grayson snapped, but he sounded unsure. Elias spoke up, his choice clear. "What exactly are you offering?" he asked the elder. "Water," the elder said. "Deep wells that won't dry. Apache hands to dig, plant, tend. In return, we work your land legally. Share the harvest. Share the prosperity." "That's impossible," Grayson said. "The government won't allow it." "The government's failed to solve the Apache problem for 20 years, the elder said. "Maybe it's time to try something new." Ayanna added, "The millers died because hungry men got desperate. What if no one was hungry? What if we all had food?" The question lingered. Morrison spoke softly. "Marshal, my wife's pregnant. Our first kid. What world are we leaving them? A civilized one?" Grayson said sharply. "With law?" "What law?" Elias asked quietly. "The law that says you can't feed a starving kid. That puts bounties on kids' heads. That says land belongs to the guy with the biggest gun." Grayson looked at Elias, really seeing him for the first time, not as a problem, but as a guy trying to do right. "You think this could work?" he asked. The elder nodded. "My grandson was dying this morning. We've been killing each other for years. Yet here we are, talking, not shooting. If that's possible, other things might be too. If you're liking this story, subscribe to the channel." The sun was dipping toward the mountains, the light turning soft and golden, like nature was waiting to see what these guys would choose. Grayson looked at his deputies, the Apache leaders, and Elias, who started it all with one kind act. If I walk away, Grayson said slowly, and report no Apache here, what's to say this won't become a base for raids? The elders, face crinkled, maybe a smile. The same guarantee we have that you won't hunt us later. None. Just trust. Built day by day. Trust? Grayson said, like it was a weird word. Between Apache and whites? Between people, Ayanna said softly. Grayson closed his eyes, then opened them. Something different in his face. 24 hours, he said. I'll give you 24 hours to prove this isn't a trap. One raid, one attack, one broken fence, and you're done. You won't, the elder promised. Grayson nodded to his men. Mount up, we're leaving. As the deputies left, Morrison paused. For what it's worth, he said to Elias, I think you did the right thing. The sound of horses faded, but the Apache warriors stayed, guarding the cabin where everything changed. In the twilight, Elias looked at faces he'd been taught to fear, realizing tomorrow's sunrise would light up a new world. The elder got off his horse and walked to Elias. My name is Takakota, he said, shaking Elias's hand. It means friend to all. Maybe today that name comes true. Elias shook his hand, feeling the strength in those old fingers. Elias, Thornwood, how do you know? How'd you find us so fast? Takakota's eyes twinkled. You think we didn't know when Ayanna went missing? We were watching when he collapsed here. He pointed to the hills. My people tracked him since dawn, ready to find his body. Instead, we saw something we haven't seen in 20 years. What's that? A white man who chose kindness over fear. Ayanna walked up, looking stronger. Grandfather, show him the water. Takakota nodded and led them to the back of the property, to a dry creek bed. Your wells fail because you dig where white folks think water is. Water has its own rules, deeper than you know. They stopped at a patch of cracked dirt. Takakota listened to the ground, then sifted dirt through his fingers. Here, he said, 20 feet down, maybe 25. More water than you'll meet in 10 lifetimes. Elias stared, doubtful. How do you know? Same way you know rain's coming or birds know to fly south. The earth talks to those who listen. Warriors were all ready, unloading shovels, picks, and buckets, moving like they'd done this a million times. Wait, Elias said, worried. What if Grayson comes back? What if other lawmen see this? They'll say I'm hiding an army. Takakota thought for a moment. Then we make it so they can't call us an army. He spoke in Apache, and some warriors rode off. Where are they going? Elias asked. To bring the women, kids, elders, seed corn, and tools, Takakota said, smiling. Hard to call farmers an army, especially with grandmas. Ayanna laughed, the first happy sound on this land in forever. My grandma will want to meet the guy who saved me. She'll probably feed you till you pop. As the sun set, more Apache. Arrive not warriors, but families. Women, kids running around, elders on gentle horses. How many? Elias asked faintly. As many as the land can hold, Takakota said. We've been dying on the reservation, eating nothing. Here, we can live. An Apache woman came up with blankets and fresh-cooked meat. She spoke to Takakota, pointing at Elias. My wife, Ayanna's grandma, Takakota said. She wants to thank you, but first she wants to feed you. Says you're too skinny for a partner. Elias laughed, despite the craziness, the fear of tomorrow, and how his whole world had flipped. Tell her I'd love that. As night fell, small cooking, fires lit up his land, not war fires, but family ones. Kids' laughter mixed with Apache chatter and some broken English. Elias sat by a fire, eating the best meal he'd had in months, surrounded by people he'd called enemies 12 hours ago. Ayanna translated, explaining their ways. Grandfather says tomorrow we dig. The women will prep the soil. If we work together, we can save some of this season's crops. And next year, and the year after. His eyes glowed in the firelight. This land can feed 100 families if we care for it right. Apache and white families together. What if this fails? Elias asked. What if the government sends soldiers or settlers say no? Takakota leaned in. We'll deal with that when it comes. But tonight, kids who were hungry yesterday are full. Enemies are eating together. talking about tomorrow's hope, not yesterday's fights. That's something. He was right. Whatever came next, tonight proved another way was possible. By morning, they'd see how much could change when people build instead of break. The next morning, Elias woke to new sounds, not his quiet, dying farm, but shovels digging, workers calling to each other, and kids laughing. He stepped outside to see his land alive. Apache families worked fast, men digging at Takakota's spot, already 6 feet down. Women prepping soil in neat rows. Kids carrying water and tools, making it a game. But the wildest part? 3 white families were there too. The Johnsons, Millers, and Calverts, all from nearby farms with their own struggles. They were clumsy at first, but the Apache showed them old farming tricks. How? Elias asked Takakota, who handed him amazing-smelling coffee. Word spreads when it's about hope, Takakota said. Deputy Morrison told his wife what he saw. She told her sister, who told the pastor, who told everyone. He smiled. Hungry people hear about water and food. They come see. Mrs. Johnson walked over, hands dirty from soil. Mr. Thornwood, hope it's okay, we're here. We heard about the wells and the deal. She shrugged. Our crops died too. Our kids are hungry. These Apache folks are teaching us stuff we never knew. An Apache woman smiled at Mrs. Johnson and said something to Takakota. She says Mrs. Johnson's good with dirt. Plants will grow strong for her. At the dig site, a shout rang out. Water seeped up, then flowed, then bubbled into a clear spring. Everyone cheered, Apache and white families alike, their kids splashing in the water that meant life for all. Ayana ran up, excited. Grandfather was right. There's tons of water down there, and this is just the first well. 3 more spots are even better. All day, more families came, some curious, some desperate. Not everyone stayed. Some white settlers saw the Apache and left, scared or mad. Some Apache warriors didn't trust the white folks and just watched. But for every person who left, 2 came, and by evening, Elias's failing farm was a community where Apache smarts and settler grit made something new. As the sun set, Elias stood by the well, watching 2 cultures eat together, their kids playing. Grayson came back twice, not to arrest, but to watch this wild experiment. Well? Takakota asked, a little girl on his shoulders. Regret sharing. Your last meal with a starving kid? Elias looked at the thriving community born from one kind act. Ask me in a year when we harvest together. If the government tries to stop us, we'll show people eating together are tougher to fight than people starving apart. Takakota nodded. Now you're thinking like an Apache. Welcome to your new life, friend. As night fell, fires lit up faces that were strangers or enemies yesterday. Tomorrow would bring new fights, new tests for this shaky alliance between people who'd only known war. But tonight, in this corner of the frontier, hunger turned to hope, and fear turned to the crazy idea that 2 worlds could be one. If you love this story, send a super chat to hear more like it. Now, click the video on the screen for an even cooler story with a twist you won't forget. Click it.